Online dating, video dating, dating coaches, speed dating. When it comes to finding out about love, we got so many options out there, but good communications is still important. So how do you make a love connection online? How do you get to the issues that really matter? And how do you stay safe and weed out the wrong people? Here to help us with that, Dating 2.0, is my guest, Reverend Dr. Pettus. Dr. Pettus speaks frequently to women and teens on the topic of domestic violence and abuse. She also talks about how to avoid toxic dating. And since this is Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month, let's start out by talking to the teens and their parents about relationships in the digital environment. So welcome to the show.
Well, thank you for having me again, and happy Valentine's Day.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. Listen, I want to set this question up so that my audience will really understand, how to filter this information that we're going to get.
Sure.
So, first of all, we're talking about teens and their parents.
Yes.
Okay? Now, most parents are digital immigrants.
Yes.
And our children are digital natives.
Yes.
That causes the conflict in critical conversations. So we have to learn, as a parent, how to have a critical conversation with my daughter about something that I am totally clueless about. So if I were a parent, talk to me about how I can talk to my daughter about all the do's and don'ts of dating online.
Well, the first thing I think you should do is to realize that your teenagers have a hands up on you, because at 2 years old, they can program your television, your VCR, your DVR, and everything else, and you're still looking at instructions. So you're right, they're born with these devices. The first thing you need to do is to ask for the password. If you're going to buy your young person a smartphone, and you're the parent, not just trying to be the friend, but the parent, you need to have the passwords.
Okay.
The second thing, you need to have a family locator. Some would say that's snitching. I say no, that's being a digital parent who wants to know the GPS of your child. So you download these apps, and many are free. So a family locator would say, if you have 3 children, it'll pinpoint exactly where your children are in school, in the recess yard. If they're telling you they're going over to Susie's to go study, and you don't see Susie's address, it could be Tyrone's address.
Exactly.
That gives you a heads up, because otherwise all you know is what they tell you they're going to do.
Exactly.
So now, teenagers are going to hate this show, because I'm going to give all the tea.
Okay.
The first thing your parent needs to do is, again, to track you. And then the other is to get your passwords.
Right.
Now, kids will change their passwords.
Often.
And so you have to be smart. When this is dinner time or whatever, just grab the phone. While they're there texting, I have a 13-year-old goddaughter. She's just always on the phone. I just grab it. And she said, Mommy doesn't even have my password. I said, well, then I'm going to have to teach Mommy my class, because if Mommy doesn't have your password and she paid for the iPhone and only you have your password, that means there's a whole bunch of stuff that can be going on, and people you can be talking to that are predators pretending to be their 14-year-old young boys, and they're a 41-year-old behind a computer and a future pedophile, and you can end up chopped up in several pieces in several states, like a Jeffrey Dahmer type of situation.
Exactly.
So when I went to go talk to her mother, just so you'll know, a lot of parents don't want to be parents, they want to be friends.
Exactly.
Well, I have to trust her. Well, trust her to 6 feet under, because that's what could possibly happen. In this day and time, you have to be proactive.
And so we realize, I like that, because I think this is serious, because I think the landscape has changed in terms of how we date, not just for teens, but period.
Period.
Okay? So I do want my child to know that I trust her, or that I trust him.
Right.
How do I have that critical conversation without it becoming a transactional type of interaction or conversation where it's just noise?
Well, it's Teen Dating Violence Awareness Month. And so when I give the statistics, 1 out of every 10 teenagers will be exposed to emotional, financial, sexual, or verbal abuse. A lot of the sexual abuse occurs now with these date drugs, these date rape drugs. So teenagers will be all kicking in a cafe, or you'll go out to eat, and we have cups here. And you get up and you go to the bathroom, or you go take a call.
Yeah.
You come back, you still sip out of that cup. Well, that's the first no-no. When you leave the table, you leave the drink.
Right.
There's a George Washington University student who just came up with what they call the dope napkin. So if a parent wants their teenager to go out, you can give her a pack of napkins. She puts the napkin on top, and when she takes the napkin off, she pours a little bit of the content. If the napkin corner turns a color, that means there's a substance in there.
Absolutely.
Isn't that brilliant?
That's brilliant.
Created by
absolutely.
a student. And so it's now like one of the new things that everybody's doing, but until that napkin gets, madly produced, I say leave the table, leave the drink.
I like that. Now,
So again, with the teens, I want to get back to the teens because it's so important. When you're watching the news, these teenagers are running away. And they're running away, not with strangers. We see in the D.C. metropolitan area, missing in black youth, missing people of color.
Oh God,
and then 3 or 4 days later, oh, they found he or she. But most of the time, 75% of the girls who run away never come back home.
Wow.
And they're usually young girls who are black or Latina, and they've been approached by somebody that they trusted, because they leave home on their own to go meet somebody. And so you have to understand that if you're leaving your child away at home too much, if you have to work at night, have somebody else stay there.
So this is where I am. I think that we have to have a critical conversation. It's kind of like back in the day, your mom had to sit down and talk to you.
The sex talk.
Yeah, the sex talk.
Now you have to have the digital talk.
Now you got to have the digital talk. I'm asking, if I'm a mom, how do I approach that? Do I get all the statistics? Do I scare her half to death, or do I tell her I'm afraid? Or how do I approach my teen about that?
There are 2 ways to do it. You can watch YouTube. There are tons of videos on there to actually teach parents how to address your child based on what age. If your child's 13, you're not going to have the same conversation that's 17 or 18. And so you can watch videos, which both of you can watch together. The main thing is when you're buying the phone, there are parental controls that you can put on the phones, just like your television.
Right.
But now there are apps that can prevent those from working, because your daughter will go to school and she'll find out from somebody else, oh, you can get around that.
Absolutely.
Let me tell you what I put on my phone. My mom doesn't have a clue. So it shows up like a calculator, and it could be a dating app.
Oh,
it shows up like pictures, and behind it are boys' nude pictures or girls' nude pictures.
And that's where I want to go.
Yes.
I've seen that. I work with millennials, and
your child can be in a Christian school watching porno right there at the desk. In the school. Yes, it happens all the time.
It happens all the time. But this is the deal. Do we, as parents, have some responsibility to talk to our kids about the do's and don'ts? Should I say to my child that I know you know better than to show your private parts to impress someone online?
That's a great one.
These are the kinds of things that...
That's sexting.
Yeah, we cannot be their friend.
Right.
So
I always say, if you wouldn't show this photo to your pastor, or if you wouldn't want your grandmama to see the photo, don't send it to the boy or the girl. Because you send your breast photo today, even without your head, they can what they call slut shame you. When they break up with you, take the picture, put your head back on it, it's sent all over school. And that's where the bullying and harassment. We had the 12-year-old commit suicide recently in a D.C. school.
Absolutely.
Beautiful young girl. She was in a
Beautiful.
boarding school.
Beautiful.
She was bullied for being too pretty and all of that. These kids are going through so much differently.
They
Another
are.
thing is be transparent. Say,
Yes,
I'm a parent.
I like that.
I don't know all the rules. So Unnia, I'm tell your daughter, you gonna have my passwords. You can have mommy's.
Yeah.
Because that's showing trust. Because again, they're finding and navigating their place.
They
Give
really
them
are.
sense of power,
Yes.
because then they will trust you. So if you can go look at my phone, I can look in yours.
Absolutely.
A lot of parents don't like that, but I tell them to do it.
I'm not ready to be transparent as a parent.
Right,
That's what
because
the
you might be
problem
doing
is.
something you don't want them to know.
Okay, so when we come back, let's talk about the critical conversation that we need to have with ourselves first before we jump into cyber dating. We'll be right back.